Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Thank you for staying with us. We are now ready to focus on everything Niger Delta this morning with our distinguished guest, Professor Benjamin Okaba, President of the Niger National Congress. Good morning, sir. It's good to see you. Now, if we can go straight into it, the National Coordinator...
Good morning, madam.
Good morning. The National Coordinator of the South-South Reawakening Group, Mr. Joseph Amba Dekerimo, identified political interference as the greatest disservice that has negatively affected the Niger Delta Development Commission. He said this while delivering his mandate to the people of the development-starved Niger Delta region. Now, I would like to know what your initial reaction was to President Tinubu's decision to dismantle the Ministry of the Niger Delta Affairs and relocate the NDDC to the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me start by saying that the Niger National Congress congratulated the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Senate President for the successful screening of ministerial nominees, which is a very welcome departure from what we used to have in the past. But again, we are all shocked when the list of cabinets, ministerial cabinets were rolled out, and we discovered that nobody assigned to the Niger Delta ministry, a ministry that is existing. I want to recall too that on the 10th of September 2008, President Yar'Adua established the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs for purposes of addressing the infrastructural deficiency in the region, human capital development, and also for the protection of the environment. You also recall that it was a product, the Niger Delta Ministry was a product of a negotiation with stakeholders in the region. The decision for us, we see it still as a speculation because there's no policy document to that effect for now. We reject that action. We consider it as undemocratic in the first place. We felt, again, it is another way of shortchanging the people of the Niger Delta. In fact, the Niger Delta Ministry was created to deal with those three issues. And I thought at this time, before taking any decision, we should be able to look at whether the ministry has done well, or those issues that were raised that became the reason why the ministry was established have been adequately dealt with. Taking them one after the other, looking at the issues of infrastructure deficiency. The East-West Road is a common road that cut across. The entire region is in a very bad shape. Even after the 2022 devilish flood, no significant effort has been made. In fact, as we speak, the Patani axis has been cut off. So in terms of infrastructure decadence, it is still as it were. Then talking about human capital, we all know how the entire region is saturated with issues of unemployment, marginalization, neglect, etc., etc. Talking about the environment seems to be more degraded than we used to have it. So the only reason why anybody should even conceive of any scrap is to have a credible alternative. And for us, the credible alternative is to give us command of our resources. Let us have resource control. Control our resources, manage our resources, deal with the issues, these three issues the way we want to have them. You know, when cocoa, groundnut, and palm oil were the mainstay of this country and were owned and managed by the people that produce those produce, there was actually no need for any ministry. So if you want to scrap this interventionist agency, the first step to do is to grant the Niger Delta's economic freedom. Let us manage our resources. If you are able to give us economic freedom, then you can take away your agencies and all that. Because after us, having those agencies is another way of saying that we cannot manage what has been given to us. So But first and foremost, let us have them. Let us have our resources. Give us, restructure this country. Give us command and control of our resources. Let us have minimum of 50%. And in that case, every state in the region will have on their own what they should do to deal with these three issues. Then if they feel that having a joint force to harmonize their efforts and deal with the same issue, that would be proper. But at this time, without solving the problems for which the ministry was created, I think it is very wrong. It's very wrong in that decision. The INC is actually supportive of the communique, the issues communique that was read by Pandef. In fact, as we speak, the Conference of President Generals of the Niger Delta are all warming to challenge this policy statement. There are other bodies in the Niger Delta. In fact, all of them are not dissatisfied. They are all dissatisfied with the decision of President Tinubu. We felt that in a democracy, if something is a product of a negotiation, then if you want to do otherwise, there must be renegotiation. This did not happen, and it is very, very undemocratic and therefore unacceptable to the people of the region. Thank you.
All right. Earlier, you mentioned that the commission had been scrapped, but I mean, you can't really say that commission was really scrapped, because it is the president had ordered the transfer to go to the Secretary General of the Federation at this point. So, I mean, as you know, there was a lot of corruption in the NDDC. At this point, there is an investigation going on, and we're waiting for the panel report. But I'd also like to know your thoughts on the president. I mean, it does appear that the president has kept the Ministry of Petroleum under his belt, and if this transfer is going to the SGF, it appears that he will be supervising that commission as well. A lot of people are saying, isn't this too much for the president? He'll be the Minister of Petroleum, overseeing the NDDC, as well as even being the ECOWAS chair.
Yes, in the first place, the Minister of Niger Delta is not just about the NDDC. Minister of Niger Delta goes beyond the NDDC. In fact, the NDDC is just a component of the Minister of Niger Delta. The NDDC is just a component of the Minister of Niger Delta. So the issue of transferring the NDDC to elsewhere in the first place is wrong, and it should also be seen as another serious aberration. Let the Niger Delta, Minister of Niger, be restored. In fact, we know that the NDDC was established in 2000, right? And the Minister of Niger Delta came later in 2008 because the Niger Delta NDDC could not adequately address the yearnings of the people of the Niger Delta. And two of them placed together is not still sufficient. Now, to your question of the president putting on his shoulders the Minister of Niger Petroleum and all that, it shows again that that rather than moving towards fiscal federalism, rather than moving towards devolution of power, where people are already crying that the center is carrying too much, it's like the president wants to carry more. And the result of all of this, like you know, if you try to bite more than what you can chew, at the end of the day, you'll be choked up. The president has too many problems to carry. Having that of ECOWAS, carrying the minister of this thing and all that. What is the essence of putting all these things together? When Buhari did it, what happened? What were the results? Was it efficient? Or at the end of the day, we saw monumental corruption and incompetence in all of this. So we thought, and Nigerians are expecting to, that the government should learn from the mistakes of the past. Buhari did, and he failed monumentally. Under the NNPC, that was under his watch, Mr. Corruption's watch, anti-corruption watch, you saw all that happen. You saw all that happen even in the petroleum sector. So Or is he interested in continuing or perpetrating corruption or perpetrating inefficiency? Is he saying that we don't have Nigerians that can be competent ministers of petroleum? You don't have Nigerians that can deal with all these other issues? He has to be cautioned and advised, because as we speak, taking off the minister of Niger Delta or in any form, whether you are squeezing it into an existing minister or not, is unacceptable to us. You also know that, like I mentioned earlier, the Minister of Niger Delta is a product of a negotiation between the stakeholders and the federal government. And we had reasons. The peace of the region has to be kept. The development of the region is non-negotiable. We have not done enough. So denying us an outright means of developing our people, when in the first place you are taking away our resources. You give, by PIA, you give the oil-producing communities 3%, and you take off. You arbitrarily take off, deny us of 97%. It's bad enough. Now, the agencies that are now given the responsibility of developing the area is what we are also taking off. The problem of the region is, or this agency, is not corruption. The major problem is underfunding. Just imagine in 2009, it was only 11 billion that was given to the Minister of Niger Delta. By 2019, it was around 19 billion. By the last budget, just 28.1 billion. If you do an average, you are talking about only 2 billion naira per month. Is that enough? So if we want to address the problems, first and foremost, we have to look at the issue of funding. Is the funding adequate? In the Senate, there have been so many debates, saying that the money given to the region is meager. And that is why on a daily basis, contractors cry out of don't be paid, abandoned projects here and there, and all that are all the impact of inadequate resources allocated to the ministry. So if we want to deal with the issues of the Niger Delta Ministry and the NDDC, we should provide enough funding, give them enough money. If they don't function where the resources are available, then you can think otherwise. Even when you talk about the corruption, if you go critically, you discover that the corruption is not caused by people in the region. Most of the jumbo projects that were made, you remember the Okaba days, where he was asked off the microphone. Why was he asked the microphone? It was because all the jumbo projects in the NDDC were awarded to people outside the Niger Delta. Outside the Niger Delta, people who don't have interest of the region. So if you are tracing corruption, it's not about our people. Our people, we have in the Niger Delta competent persons. Even those persons that were not to be, they were all appointed by people outside the region whose mandate was first and foremost to satisfy their selfish interests and not the interests of the people of the region. Right. So if the reason for taking it is corruption, in fact, it will be more corruption if it is at the center, because the center is known for what it is.
All right, Prof.
So, like the earlier the reference you made to somebody who talked about political interference, which is true. The political economy is true. All the agencies in the region, yes, they have. For the Niger Delta, are they controlled by Nigerian people? No. So if we want a permanent solution to this, like I said, it will not bother anybody. Give us at least 50% of our resources. Grant us economic freedom. Economic freedom is the key. Give us economic freedom when cocoa, granite, and oil were found. In fact, the Western region in those days, with their cocoa, developed universities elsewhere. In fact, the Midwest region that was part of it, that was part of Western region, before Midwest was created, was even denied anything. And then when they questioned, they said, you from the Midwest, you don't produce anything, so you should not get anything. So we're talking about the same Nigeria. So this slavery, this economic slavery that has been meted on the people of the region must stop if we want peace in the region. We must be developed. It is injustice. We feed this country. We feed this country. We know our policies, our economy is feeding bottle. And the feeding bottle and all the content of the feeding bottle is the region. How can you deny the person that feeds you and you want to feel well? Peace will rule this country unless we justifiably treat the people of the region with justice and equity. We have suffered too much. This is another way of undermining us and saying that we mean nothing. You just take away things without talking to anybody. It's not possible now. It's not possible. And I just want to caution, just like the Pandev cautioned, that look, don't take us for granted though. Don't take us for granted because it's not that when you see agitations for secession and all that, we're not quiet because we don't have conditions that should make us think for secession, move for secession. But we believe that we own this country more than any other person. We cannot leave this country for anybody. If anybody wants, the person should leave. We sustain this country. You can't drive us away from our own home. Instead, if you are not dissatisfied, we are dissatisfied with what is happening, you leave. We own this country. And let people not push us to a particular point where we make things difficult for this country.
All right, Prof. Thanks. I mean, I see the passion with which you are making this point, but I have two quick questions, if you don't mind, sir. First is beyond the symbolism of the Niger Delta Ministry, which under Tinubu administration now will not have a minister, at least for now. Are there specific developmental contributions that you can attribute to that ministry since 2008 when it was created by the administration of former President Yaradua? From Minister Ufo Tekaite to Rubebe to Akpabio to Umana, what will you say? I mean, yes, you have alluded to the fact that the ministry was not properly funded. But then the little that they got, are there things that you can point to that Niger Deltans can say that at least while the ministry was there, this is what we gained, so that we do not conflict what the ministry is able to do with what states in the Niger Delta? Are you with me, Prof?
A big book. Yeah, I'm with you.
All right. So that we do not conflict what a ministry is able to do with what the 6 states in the Niger Delta region can do. And then quickly, you refer to what Pandev is saying, and you corroborated the fact that there might be youth restiveness if the issue of the Niger Delta ministry is not properly addressed. Is that a mere caution, or is it a subtle threat to the federal government?
Okay, I'll take the question. In fact, you can see that I was trying to look through my library.
Yes.
If you had told me that you're going to ask this question earlier, I would have just given you a compendium of projects executed by the Minister of Niger Delta. Yes, you cannot say that the Niger Delta Ministry is a complete failure. In fact, they have done a lot in the midst of scarcity of resources. They have projects spotted in all states of the region. I have a book containing projects started and completed, some not completed because of the problems of scarcity of funds. So in the midst of lack of funds, they have done well. And if they have not done well, it is because of constraints that were imposed by lack of funding and constraints of budgeting and all that. That is that. Then secondly, you talked about the corroborating the communique of Pandev. I want to tell you categorically that the Pandevs spoke the minds of Niger Deltans. Whoever that speaks against, has a contrary opinion, is an enemy of the region. Because if you go through the region today, people are dying instrumentally. Environmental protection issues are issues that we face on a daily basis. From every part of the region, people are just dying instrumentally. There's infrastructure deficiency. our youths are not engaged. So you talk about human capital. So these are issues that will serve our recipes for. In fact, these are issues that people agitating the already angered people of the region. So even they say caution, it is because it will get to a stage if these issues are not properly and urgently addressed. We won't be able to guarantee. We won't be able to guarantee. It's not pandemic for me that will go to war or carry out any arms. But there are people that are angered, and they should remember that while we have the Niger Delta Ministry and also the NDDC are products of negotiation. That is the only way of ensuring peace in Nigeria and in the region. Because if there is crisis in the Niger Delta region, it will affect every facet, every part of this country. All other ministries are based on this ministry because that is the ministry that is keeping the peace. That is the ministry that has a semblance of government intervention, government readiness to address the issues of marginalization and neglect over the years. Yar'Adua did this in good faith. Jonathan sustained it. Buhari kept it. Why will Tinubu just sit in it? Why? What is the logic about it? Is it taking us for granted? It's not. So it's not, if you call it a threat or a subtle threat, I don't know whether it's a threat, but it's a caution. It's a caution. The elders of the region, the critical stakeholders are saying, are just trying to give early warning signals that this action, this decision is devilish. This decision will not go well with our people, and they might react. So, government, go back to your drawing board and withdraw. If it's a policy, let us go back to what works. Already, yes, just like you said, beyond the symbolism, are we getting anything? We are not getting as much as we want. We know that the only way we can get what we want is resource control. We say it, we continue to say it. Give us our resources, let us manage them.
Okay,
let us manage our resources. Let us control them.
I'd like to come in here, Professor.
That is the only credible alternative to this issue.
The NDC in itself has faced numerous allegations of corruption in the past. A very popular example would be the forensic audit of the operations of the interventionist agency agency initiated during the tenure of the former minister of the Ministry of the Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godswill Akpabio, who is now the president of the Senate. Now, while some critics have argued that relocating the NDC in itself might centralize power and decision-making, potentially reducing the regional autonomy that the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs provided. Now, I want to know what your thoughts are. Do you believe that this in itself is a strategic step towards addressing the corruption concerns and improving the efficiency of the NDDC's operations? Because you said in your last response that bringing it to the center in itself might not be the answer to trying to battle corruption. Now, what is your perspective on this particular concern?
Okay, like I said earlier, looking at the issues of corruption in this country, we are very fast at identifying the fact that there's corruption. Even when we get to knowing the corrupt people, what do we do with them? What do you do with them? You just mentioned a huge personality, right? That was at the center of this and that and all that. What do you patronize corruption as a society, as a government? Do we discourage it? Let's talk about the oil theft. All along, it has been Niger Delta boys and girls are the ones stealing oil. There's now ample evidence to show that the oil theft is endemic in people outside the region. Now that we have dossier or evidence, several evidence of facts that people stealing oil are elsewhere. Their names have even been mentioned. What have we done to them? So it is not about relocation. It's about dealing with the issue. I tell you for free that taking the Niger Delta Ministry and domesticating it or domiciling it at the center is another way of of alienating the people of the region. It's another way of taking control. Because when you talk about the NDDC, it's a board. There's a management. At least in that board, you have representatives of people from several regions. Still, likewise, that the Minister of Niger. So if we have this, at least people will have a means of expressing themselves, making demands.
All right.
Making demands and ensuring that the needs of the people are addressed. So
all right, Prof.
I agree with you totally that it is another way of alienating the people of the region.
Okay.
Right? Which is unacceptable. You cannot, we pay the bills of this country. We pay, we suffer, we die instrumentally for this country to be alive.
All right, Prof.
It is very, very unfair.
Yes.
To take us for granted. Thank you.
Okay. You've made that point repeatedly, sir, but we are really pressed for time. But just quickly, half a minute before we go, you have said, you've re-emphasized the issue of caution. But I'd like to point out that one of your sons from the Niger Delta, Asari Dokubo, is ferociously behind President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and he says that all the Niger Delta youth and boys are with him. We also know that Tompolo, another of your boys, is having a contract with the federal government, which the Tinubu administration is continuing with. With those people behind the president, do you think that you still maintain your position that anybody in your region who does not support the fact that the Niger Delta ministry should return will not be a good citizen or a good Niger Deltan, given all the points that you have made?
Well, thank you very much. Yes, Asari Dogobo, Tompolo, and many others. You have just mentioned two. There are many others. They are very respected sons of the struggle. And they know what the struggle means. As we speak, just like you said, they are contractors to the federal government. I am the spokesperson of Ijaw Nation. I'm the oracle of Ijaw Nation as we speak. So, and they know Asari was RYC president once, and he knows the powers of the president. He will not go against the president. If Asari is asked to choose between Ijaw Nation and Nigeria, I know his choice. The same way with Tompolo. These are dogged fighters of Ijaw Nation. So they are just doing business.
All right, Prof.
When we get to the nitty-gritty,
yes,
we shall see the issues. Thank you.
All right, Professor Benjamin Okaba, the oracle of the Niger Delta and Ijaw Nation. We want to thank you so much for joining us on the Morning Show today. Thank you indeed.